Parliament in Guyana suspended following a standoff between the Speaker and the opposition. That's our top story in Caribbean Newsline for Monday, December 11. From the CMC News Center in Bridgetown, I'm Nicole Best. Good evening. The Parliamentary Office in Guyana is now seeking legal advice after a standoff between Speaker Dr. Barton Scotland and opposition legislators on Monday. It began when opposition MP Bishop Juan Edgehill refused to follow the orders of the Speaker to take his seat. Edgehill was protesting the Speaker's refusal to grant an extension in the time allotted to examine the budget for the Ministry of the Presidency. When he refused to take his seat, following repeated orders, the Speaker requested that the Sergeant of Arms escort him out. But his opposition colleagues formed a human shield around him, preventing the Sergeant of Arms and later the police from reaching him. This prompted the Speaker to suspend Parliament. Speaking to the media during the suspension, Minister of State Joseph Harmon said it was a question of following the rule of law.
The Speaker made a ruling after several warnings to him. Even after the Speaker gave his ruling, the Speaker told him to leave the chamber. All of you heard him say, "I will not leave," in complete defiance of what the Speaker said. Now, this has nothing to do with who can speak and all of that. It's a question of the rule of law. The Speaker is the person who controls the business in this House. And he cannot, Mr. Edgehill or no other member of the House, can decide that they will violate these rules of the House by refusing to take action when the Speaker tells them to do so.
Harmon says the actions of Edgehill and his opposition colleagues were part of a pattern of behavior and not a one-off incident.
I'm seeing their behavior. It's a sort of a pattern that developed after the President came here and spoke. And they were very disrespectful. The Speaker came subsequently and made a written ruling on their behavior. So what you're seeing here is a pattern that's continuing. And I believe that we have to take a stand. I believe the Speaker has done the right thing in taking a stand on this matter.
But opposition leader Barrett Jagdeo is defending his People's Progressive Party decision. Jagdeo told the news in a dimly lit parliament after the suspension that the substantive matter is yet to be resolved.
I suggested to the Speaker that we should, from his chamber, or maybe if he wishes, could have another MP come and adjourn the session for today until tomorrow so that we can diffuse this entire situation. I pointed out to him about the frustration on our side about in relation to the constant attempt of the government to avoid scrutiny. Now, the consideration of the estimates as provided for by the standing orders could take as much as 7 days. They've reduced it to 5 days, although we are dealing with a budget that is over $265 billion. The budget keeps getting a bit larger, yet the time for consideration of the estimate is being shrunk. And so we pointed out about this restriction and the need for members of Parliament to do their duty, that is to question the estimate.
Jagdeo says the issue now has gone beyond the ruling of the Speaker, especially since agents of the state were called in.
The subsequent actions of agents of the Parliament have led to the police coming here and the assault on many of our members of Parliament. So it's not a straightforward issue of a breach of this standing order any longer, that it has several dimensions. And the only thing we can do to defuse this situation is to adjourn for the day.
Just over 6 months after a High Court ruling legalized gay marriage in Bermuda, the Parliament is moving to roll back the decision. It has come on the form of legislation that will allow same-sex couples to enter into a domestic partnership but not marry. The Domestic Partnership Bill was passed in the House of Assembly with 24 MPs supporting it and 10 opposing it. It now has to be passed in the Senate. The bill essentially replaces same-sex marriage with a domestic partner arrangement which can be entered into by both same-sex and heterosexual couples. Home Affairs Minister Walton Brown, who introduced the bill, said it would provide same-sex couples with a raft of legal rights but prevent any further same-sex marriages on the island. In May this year, Judge Charles Etta Simmons ruled that the Registrar General could not reject a gay couple's application to marry in Bermuda. She also said that the common law definition of marriage as between a man and a woman was inconsistent with the provisions of the Human Rights Act, as it constituted deliberate different treatment on the basis of sexual orientation. The legislation will not affect same-sex couples who previously tied the knot following the ruling. Supporting the Progressive Labour Party administration's decision to reverse the provisions made for in that court decision, Government MP Lawrence Scott said the bill brought balance and gave lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender and queer community the benefits it has been asking for while keeping the traditional definition of marriage. But several opposition MPs and human rights groups have condemned the move, calling it a step backwards. Opposition leader Jean Atherden said the government was taking away rights that have been granted to communities of individuals who want to start families. And the Shadow Minister of National Security, Jeff Barron, said the legislation was a very flawed and frankly shameful bill that did not protect equality. The Centre for Justice said it is dismayed that the government now seeks to roll back on the full rights associated with marital equality, which have been recognized by the Supreme Court. An online petition has been launched to pressure the government to keep marriage equality in place and prevent Bermuda from becoming the first country to roll back marriage equality. Meantime, a bill to decriminalize small quantities of cannabis in Bermuda was passed with support from both sides of the House. The Misuse of Drugs Amendments Act 2017 seeks to remove criminal sanctions for possessing under 7 grams of cannabis, but police will still be able to seize any amount of cannabis. Regulations will also be drawn up for substance abuse education or treatment for those caught with the drug. A similar bill was debated and approved by the House of Assembly in May, but that legislation never reached the Senate because of the general election. This latest bill will now head to the Senate. The murder toll in Jamaica has surpassed that of 2016, with 3 more weeks still left in the year. 1,350 people were murdered last year, and the Jamaica Constabulary Force said 1,500 people have been murdered so far in 2017, with guns used in 82% of the killings. Among the latest deaths were 2 people who were killed on Sunday afternoon when gunmen opened fire on mourners at a funeral. The deceased were on Monday identified as 20-year-old Ashley Hobson and 34-year-old Delroy Salesman. 7 other people were injured in the shooting, which occurred at the King's Chapel Seventh-day Adventist Church in East Kingston just after 3 in the afternoon. We get more in this report from Vashon Brown of TVJ News.
Men armed with guns drove up, came out of their vehicle and opened fire on persons standing in the churchyard. Those shot were taken to the Kingston Public Hospital. 9 of them. KPH CEO Errol Green said 2 of the 9 were dead on arrival.
We opened 4 additional theatres. She called out additional doctors, and matron has called out additional nurses and specialist nurses to deal with the situation. The situation here was pretty much pandemonium at the time.
We understand that a man believed to be one of the suspects in the attack was held and severely beaten by residents of West Street. He's now in hospital under police guard. TVJ News also understands that the funeral was being held for Romaine White, a resident of Matthews Lane in West Kingston. Mr. White was fatally stabbed in downtown Kingston on November 29. Investigators are searching for suspects in his killing.
Still in Jamaica, the International Monetary Fund has raised concern about the slow pace of public sector wage talks. An IMF team, which ended a 4-day visit to Jamaica last week, issued a statement warning that delayed public sector wage negotiations pose significant budgetary risks. The statement said the IMF team and the Jamaican authorities concurred on the urgent need to accelerate the negotiations. Wage talks have stalled after several groups, including teachers, nurses and the police, rejected the 6% wage offer over 2 years. Meantime, the IMF team reiterated that wage containment is critical to release resources for much-needed social and growth-enhancing spending. It added that it's also essential to make the public sector smaller as well as more agile and efficient. Still to come in Caribbean Newsline, the post-hurricane curfew in Dominica has been lifted. That story and more after the break. Do stay with us.
Welcome to the gem of the Caribbean, Antigua and Barbuda.
A warm welcome awaits you at our state-of-the-art VC Bird International Airport.
I must say that Antigua is in wonderful shape. 5 minutes off the boat and we're already in paradise.
Antigua was not that damaged by the storm as much as Barbuda was. The hotels are still open, the beaches are still clean, and the people are still friendly.
With Antigua, it's the people that really await you.
Hurricane Irma may have hit a little bit, but you can't even tell that it was ever here. The beach is wonderful. I'm having a great time.
Everything is just as we remember. No storm damage.
We're here and we're open.
And we're better than ever.
I do a lot of destination weddings, and I see weddings that could happen here, and they would be in love with it.
I can't say enough about how in love with Antigua I am.
It is one nation, 2 islands, and I'm loving it.
Did you know that a strategy has been developed to help improve the region's education and human resources?
You didn't? Well, the HID strategy, as it is called, will guide CARICOM in how it delivers quality education and training to the people of the region.
The strategy has been crafted by a group of experts called the HRD Commission.
Consultations have been done across the region to get your input.
Do you know that none of us will be left behind?
The HRD strategy is important to all of us, students, parents, and employers. It will prepare the region, especially the youth, for the 21st century economy and society.
The HRD strategy, unlocking Caribbean human potential.
Authorities in Dominica have now completely lifted a curfew that had been imposed since Hurricane Maria tore through the island on September 18. A brief statement from the Ministry of National Security last Friday said the curfew ended with immediate effect following an assessment by the Chief of Police. In the aftermath of the Category 5 storm hitting the island, a 4 p.m. to 8 a.m. curfew was imposed to help police deal with looting. Those curfew hours were subsequently shortened. Then in October, the curfew was lifted in some areas but kept in place in the capital. The Ministry of National Security said the city of Roseau is returning to a state of normalcy, with electricity being restored in a number of areas. And it said that bearing in mind it's now the Christmas season, there's a need to create an environment that encourages economic activity. The St. Lucia government is responding to being blacklisted by the European Union with an announcement of new tax measures. The island was among 17 countries recently listed as tax havens, and Finance Minister Obaldas Raymond said new tax rules are likely to be unveiled in the budget. He denied that the island is a tax haven, adding that Castries has complied with all regulatory requirements of international institutions, and Prime Minister Alan Chastanet signed the automatic exchange of information agreement in November 2016. Minister Raymond said St. Lucia and the 3 other Caribbean countries on the list, Grenada, Trinidad and Tobago and Barbados, were not blacklisted for dodging the agreement or the requirements of the international institutions. He said it had more to do with imbalance in the tax regime. Raymond says the main issue involves harmonization of taxes, which St. Lucia is currently working to improve. In Trinidad and Tobago, the labor movement is strongly resisting any move to increase the retirement age from 60 to 65, with Parliament examining the possibility in order to bolster the national insurance system. Union leaders say increasing contributions and the retirement age are not the only solutions.
This may require a national referendum. It's so serious.
Let the people decide. That's how the labor movement feels about proposals to increase the NIS contribution rate and the retirement age. With the National Insurance Board forecasting financial difficulty, labor leaders were invited to a JSC of Parliament for consultation. But the OWTU says the idea is already being rejected by its members.
We've had serious complaints about raising it to $500.
But according to the Employers Consultative Association, the NIS structure was designed for gradual increases in both contributions and retirement age. However, NATUC's General Secretary pointed out that it has not been operating the way that it should.
Too often, benefits increases are politically motivated.
According to Michael Anisette, pension increases cost the NIB $10 billion between 2003 and 2016. He says decisions were made without consideration for NIB's revenues. That's why they are appealing to the Parliament to think beyond burdening employees.
We are inundated with a lot of complaints from workers that they contribute and they don't have their, when they go to get claims, there's no record of the claims being put.
With employer compliance a huge factor, the unions also pointed out that there's a significant number of self-employed persons who are outside of the system. The unions feel employers should be held to greater accountability.
And we want to make a recommendation that this fine be increased so that the penalty going to be real, the penalty going to be reflective of what we are seeing.
The ECA argues that there is an 89% employer compliance, but the unions disagree.
And that report was from Rio Rambali of CNC3 News. Over in St. Croix, the Federal Aviation Administration, the FAA, says engine problems may have contributed to the crash of a private chartered plane that left a pilot and his 4 passengers dead. The aircraft crashed soon after taking off from the Rolston Airport last Thursday night. In its preliminary report, the FAA said that the plane, which was on its way to St. Thomas, returned to the St. Croix Airport because of engine problems, and it subsequently burst into flames. Media reports say that among the casualties was a member of the Style Band, one of the territory's premier groups. And ahead in Newsline Sport, West Indies looks set to taste defeat in the second and final test against New Zealand. We'll have the details of that story and more when we return.
Come, sail with us through our ocean blues, where there's a blessed land that's waiting for you. Look, listen, feel. Realize your dream escape that's magically surreal. The best kept secret, a place you'll never forget, where adventure beckons with every gentle footstep. From lush mountain green to warm volcanic sand, submerged in splendor, our 32 enchanting islands. A kaleidoscope of experiences. No need to look anymore. St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the Caribbean you're looking for.
Did you know that a strategy has been developed to help improve the region's education and human resources?
You didn't? Well, the HID strategy, as it is called, will guide CARICOM in how it delivers quality education and training to the people of the region.
The strategy has been crafted by a group of experts called the HRD Commission.
Consultations have been done across the region to get your input.
Do you know that none of us will be left behind?
The HRD strategy is important to all of us, students, parents, and employers. It will prepare the region, especially the youth, for the 21st century economy and society.
The HRD strategy Unlocking Caribbean Human Potential.
Opener Kieran Powell completed a pair to leave West Indies in dire straits in their pursuit of a world record target of 444 runs after Ross Taylor's 17th Test 100 put New Zealand in a near-invincible position in the second and final test at Hamilton on Monday. Resuming the third day at Sidon Park on 215 for 8 in their first innings, West Indies added just 6 runs before dismissing for 221 to concede a lead of 152 runs. The Black Caps then scored at a decent clip to declare at 291 for 8 in their second innings, with the outstanding Taylor gathering an unbeaten 107 to join the illustrious Martin Crowe and current captain Kane Williamson at the top of the century makers list for his country. Left with 40 minutes before close, the Windies lost the left-handed Powell, who exited without scoring for the second time in the match when he was squared up by left-arm seamer Trent Bolt and caught low down at third slip by Tim Southey. Captain Craig Brathwaite, unbeaten on 13 at the close, will carry the fight for the Caribbean side heading into Tuesday's day 3, along with Shea Hope on 1. Staying with cricket, ex-West Indies skipper that's off-spinner Shane Shillingford snatched his 4th 5-wicket haul as Windward Islands Volcanoes stunned leaders Guyana Jaguars to earn the first tie in 152 years for the regional first-class championship on Sunday. Resuming on 104 for 4 in pursuit of 164, Jaguars were dismissed with scores level to create a slice of history at the National Stadium. The odds at the start of the final day of the 6th-round contest would have been on the 3-time defending champions, but Shillingford snapped up 5 for 47 to earn Volcanoes a share of the honours. Left-arm pacer Deleron Johnson, who grabbed 2 wickets the previous evening, ended with 3 for 45. Left-hander Vishal Singh, unbeaten on 48 at the start, carried Jaguars' hopes of victory, but he added just 8 before perishing in the 5th over of the morning. LBW to Shillingford for a top score of 56. Meanwhile, at Sabina Park, rain and defiant batting led by Trinidad and Tobago Red Force captain Dennis Ramden earned the side a draw with Jamaica Scorpions. Ramden was unbeaten on 52 and shared a crucial 5th wicket stand with Tion Webster that carried the Red Force to 162 for 6 when the rain stopped play about 6 minutes after tea. Ramden was also involved in another defiant stand with veteran Imran Khan that had yielded 40 when the rain came and saved the Red Force from defeat. The result meant that Scorpions, starting the match in 3rd on 55 points, gained 12.6 points. And at Warner Park, St. Kitts, Devon Thomas's 3rd first-class 100 and a career best knock from Akeem Saunders carried Leeward Islands Hurricanes to within reach of a stunning come-from-behind victory over Barbados Pride before they settled for a draw. Thomas hit the top score of 103, his first 100 in 2 years, and Saunders supported with a resolute 64, his first ever half-century that propelled the Hurricanes to 286 for 8. It was just shy of the target of 312 set earlier on the final day. The pair defied the Pride attack for close to 2 hours either side of tea, with a stand of 108 for the 5th wicket after the Hurricanes looked in danger of crumbling on 133 for 4. The result meant that Pride, entering the match in 5th position on 48 points, earned 8.8 points, gaining 3 for the result, while Hurricanes, starting the match in 4th on 49.6 points, finished with 7.4 points. That included 3 points for the results. West Indies T20 star Kieran Pollard has signed on with Melbourne Renegades for their last 3 matches of the Big Bash League, bowling off later this month. Pollard will replace Afghan off-spinner Mohammad Nabi, who was called up this week to replace West Indies off-spinner Sunil Narayan. Trinidadian Narayan has withdrawn for personal reasons. Nabi will be available for the first 7 games of the Big Bash, and when he departs, Pollard would step in to fill the spot. The campaign will be the experienced Pollard's 5th in the Big Bash after 4 previous seasons with Adelaide Strikers. He will play alongside fellow Trinidadian Dwayne Bravo, who is returning to the franchise again this season. We switch in now. The Roosevelt Skerritt administration in Dominica says a multi-million-dollar injection is needed to restore Windsor Park to its former glory. And that's according to Youth, Sports and Culture Minister Justina Charles, who was speaking at a press conference on Monday. The cricket ground, which hosts international matches, suffered the wrath of Hurricane Maria, which battered the island in September. Saying the stadium had been the Nature Isle's greatest accomplishment in sport, Charles explained how badly Windsor Park was affected by the powerful hurricane.
We know the sport at the stadium, our roof, most of our roofs were affected. The outfield, the perimeter walls, we had our towers, 2 of our towers fell. We had the electrical cabinets that control the towers, our scoreboard, which was recently installed at $1.3 million. And I mean, it was one of the best scoreboards that we had in the region, you know, from all comments. And that was damaged. And so we have to now look at how we can enhance, repair some of those things.
The sport minister revealed the amount needed to restore the stadium.
I must say, though, we have received an assessment of the extent of damage at the stadium and the cost to repair it, and you won't believe it is in excess of $6 million to restore everything at the stadium, the VIP booths, the towers, our perimeter fence, and everything that was affected by the storm, to do it in a more climate resilient manner. So we definitely have to look at our way forward in terms of the stadium.
And that's the sport. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Come, sail with us through our ocean blues, where there's a blessed land that's waiting for you. Shh. Look, listen, feel. Realize your dream escape that's magically surreal. The best kept secret, a place you'll never forget, where adventure beckons with every gentle footstep. From lush mountain green to warm volcanic sand, submerged in splendor, our 32 enchanting islands. A kaleidoscope of experiences. No need to look anymore. St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the Caribbean you're looking for.
In a place where legends start, the beach is just the beginning. So live a little for the exhilaration and the color of every moment, where time is and life is a spirited event. Immerse yourself in the culture, the music, the people, the island. Love Antigua and Barbuda. Embrace an experience that leaves you breathless, from cricket to sailing week to carnival and more. Antigua and Barbuda, the beach is just the beginning.
Again, the major developments of this day. Parliament in Guyana suspended following a standoff between Speaker and the opposition. And in sport, West Indies look set to taste defeat in the second and final test against New Zealand as they pursue a world record target of 444 runs. That's Caribbean Newsline. For news and sport around the clock, log on to CarnaNews.com. We'll be back here again tomorrow. But from all of us at CMC News, thank you for watching. Do have yourselves a good night.